This episode is brought to you by Baby Ethereus. You may have heard of Ethereus, the Ethereum mining income token, but Baby Ethereus is a hyper-deflationary token on the BSC chain that provides great opportunities and rewards for Ethereus token holders. Baby Ethereus has gone from $300,000 market cap to over $5.7 million in 1 hour. Stake Baby Ethereus and get raffle tickets that enter you to win a 2022 Tesla Model 3. Visit babyaeth.com for more information. Link in the description below.
This my two Satoshis, who need 2 cents when they can get double from stacking Toshis, yeah.
Hola, I'm Tracker 2Ks, and this is another episode of My Two Satoshis here on CBTV. If you don't know, that is Crypto Blood TV. So it's after Miami, the whole Bitcoin conference thing, whatever. I got some stories that caught my attention, heavy on the crypto side, just like one thing that kind of crosses into non-crypto stuff, but nonetheless, it crossed my attention. It crossed my radar, so it has my attention. This first video here, this gentleman, his name is Dixon, seen the video the other day, and it caught my attention because he talks about this thing that he calls the finance innovation cycles, and he says that there's 6 phases of it. The reason why I bring this up is because after Miami happened, Celsius, if you don't know about the, it's really C5D5, but whatever, named Celsius, they made the announcement that by the time you see this recording, it's basically, if you're not an accredited investor in the US jurisdiction and a couple other places, you're not going to be able to get the rewards of staking your crypto on their platform. And so at this point, I would argue, if you ain't look into it, you might want to look into it if you've been on the platform for a minute and you know damn sure you are not a accredited investor, because you're going to have some issues down the road when they start upgrading their terms of service and policies. But nonetheless, I want to play this real quick because I'm running on something different. This is one of the videos. I'm going to play it at a high speed, but I want you to listen to real quick what he's saying. You can then go back and do it yourself.
Understand so that you're less surprised when these things happen.
All right.
So I break the financial innovation cycle up into 6 stages. And these 6 stages are based upon being involved in the Bitcoin industry, and before that, the financial technology industry, and monetary reform movements for the last 2 decades. I've been investing in the Bitcoin industry since 2011, since speaking at the first Bitcoin conference and writing the first published book in the world to include Bitcoin, where I actually laid out my investment.
All right. So the basic thing going on here is that he's one of the dudes who invested in like Kraken, Shapeshift, Coinbase, and a number of other CeFi companies in the early startup days. So he's talking about it from the standpoint of, hey, I'm the guy who gave up the capital, and I'm seeing how the cycle stuff works. And the basic idea is that companies start off altruistic about they want to include everyone and they want to, diversify the financial system, and the traditional system is broken because it's not inclusive of everyone. He makes the point of what then happens is either the regulation comes in hardcore, like, no, you can't do it that way. You can't include everyone. And so things like FinCEN, things like the Treasury Department, things like the IRS, things like, other financial institutions start tapping in on the regulatory policies and the guiding framework to be like, no, this can't be an everybody thing. So they start off altruistic, and over time, they move into being centralized and exclusive. Like business structure, they'll be centralized from the start, but as far as their operations and who they're able to accept and allow to use their platform, that gets exclusive and centralized. And so he basically breaks down the 6 different phases. I would strongly recommend watching that video and then, catching the whole thing. Again, his name is Dixon. The bottom line is, this is what the space is going to move like as we go forward to what I call the cobblestone of mass adoption. And so this is what we're going to see, folks. More and more regulatory things that is going to make it more exclusionary in this crypto space. So we went from talking about, and I'm jumping into this next story because it plays into this too, about it's open source, it's uncensorable, and everyone has access to it, to where the policies from the regulatory side, and we see this going on globally, are going to start coming in and tapping in to say, no. we can't have everyone have an equal access to this financial instruments. That's the bottom line of what I'm saying, folks. And that's basically what he was saying. So you're either gonna do a hard left, like a shapeshift, and be decentralized to a degree as far as what you're doing, or you're going to be CeFi centralized like a Kraken, like a Coinbase as a company, and you're gonna start being exclusionary to X number of people in the space. That's how this mass adoption thing is working. Jumping into this next thing, this caught my attention with Ledger. If you are into Ledger as a hardware wallet where you're storing your stuff, guess what? Now there's a software, which is Zen Ledger, which basically will track all your gains, your profits and losses. And here's the key part that got me in this whole thing. Something got updated in this article. I don't have the time to look through to see what it is, but this line right here. This announcement came out about Zen Ledger after Miami. There's a number of things that got announced after Miami happened, right? This is one of those things that they renewed their contract with the IRS. So here's what I don't 100% understand right now, because I didn't dig deep into this. Is it that Ledger, as the hardware wallet vendor producer, has the, hey, we know that this person bought a thing from us or whatever? Does that mean that if you don't turn the feature on Ledger Live on, does it mean that they then are able to connect the public address wallet that you can see on any blockchain explorer with the real person's PII to be like, okay, that account is connected to this person? Remember, they're in the same territory as Coinbase now. I'm talking about Zen Ledger. And I argue that in the next 24 months, hardware wallets are going to start to change their terms of service, and there's going to be a tapping in on AML, KYC, transportation stuff. Don't believe me? It's okay. I'm just some guy on the internet. This ain't financial advice. But nonetheless, I'm just saying this goes into Simon Dixon's thing about the financial innovation cycle and how it moves from being altruistic into being X amount of the same old system. Because we're not talking about the open source part of the technology. We're talking about the regulated use cases that jurisdictions and or agencies within certain jurisdictions are telling the public what they can and can't do. Remember, you also have agencies telling you stuff that you didn't actually vote those people in the office, right? You voted in your senator, your politician, blah, blah, blah. But you didn't actually vote the person who sits in the SEC department, who sits in FinCEN, who sits in the Treasury Department. Me, as the regular average Joe citizen, has no power or influence over that person, in part because I didn't vote them in, and in part because I don't got the bank to have anything to say to them. I'm just saying things you might want to pay attention to. Jumping into this next story right here is about, I'm gonna play this one real quick too.
For the next 10 years, the crypto
Listen to what he says.
Bitcoin, all of this innovation will be the 12th sector of the S&P.
So that is Kevin O'Leary. He made this speech, not 100% certain where. If it happened at Bitcoin Miami, I didn't really pay attention to Bitcoin Miami like that. I have my whole reasons on whatever with that. Nonetheless, he's pro-reg, like he's a heavy pro-reg person. Regulations, I'm talking about regulations. And so when he says that blockchain and crypto will be the 12th sector of the S&P, he's like, yo, the regulatory stuff is coming down the pike, and the industry is about to see the floodgates open for the family trust, the country level monetary fund management people. It's about to come in heavy. And so the industry is going to look very different over the next 2 years. Come 2025, if you got in here in 2015, it's gonna be a whole different landscape of how you operate in this space and what it's looking like as far as the cobblestone road to mass adoption. If this is an open source technology, if this is about being uncensorable, that means governments, private companies, public companies, and individuals are free and open to use this technology as they want. The catch is the regulatory side of the use cases and how you use it if you are or touching any kind of system or ecosystem that is regulated in a governmental sense or in a company sense. So You can't just go in randomly to be like, yo, Bank of America, I want to do this and this with my account. No. They have their policies and procedures based on the guiding policy agencies that sit over them. The other thing to take away from this, for me at least, was that he's signaling to the big money. Like, not like I'm just a rich individual money, but like the super whale money folks. Listen, the gates are about to open. Y'all about to come in here and do what y'all do to, basically, I would argue, make the crypto space markets basically act like how the gold and the precious metal markets work, and like how Wall Street stuff works, where again, it's going to be an exclusionary thing. And there's going to be parts that quote are inclusive, but that's where you got to get more of the technical know-how, and then like build your actual real world network of people who know that side. Most of the folks who are going to come in now, especially off of this level of adoption of like family trust and fund managers at that level, they're not going to care about those things. Like, this is the thing to me that shows most of the folks coming in do not care about being their own bank. They don't care about economic sovereignty. It's a whole different mentality that's moving around in this space. The next thing I'll say too is the two like real hot take caveats is stable coins, because this is like the third or fourth thing that I've heard in like the last 2 weeks about stable coins being mentioned. He brings up stable coins, and he also talks about carbon credits. Carbon credits are definitely going to be a thing in this space, especially if we continue to have it that Bitcoin, or at least the Bitcoin we all understand now as Bitcoin, or the majority of us, remains on a proof of work consensus. There's going to be a whole thing about the whole green movement and blah, blah, blah. He does a lot of virtue signaling on that too, about, green and ethically produced crypto. Blah. Like, I'm not a fan for it. Like, I don't like the BS of it, but I understand a little bit more than other folks. So whatever. Moving on to this next thing. This one. Okay, I'm going to throw this out here. And again, this goes into the thing of what are we talking about when it comes to how things are marketed as DeFi. They are marketed as decentralized. But when you actually look at either the business structure or the technical way they work, there are centralized components and touch points of it. And in the bigger thing of it, we say, well, now, it wasn't like this, 8 years ago, is that blockchain is a sliding scale of centralized to decentralized, right? Meaning it's either all of the powers on the far right, or it's way over on the left where it's distributed across different either entities or technology applications, right? And so in that, what happened here though is there's a class action lawsuit by this lady named Nesla Risley, and her thing was, hey, Uniswap Labs did not do enough to protect her and others like her from losses due to scammers. From day one, as far as, at least in my era and the folks I hang around with, it's been, hey, do your own due diligence. This is the part of where I say again, the folks who are coming in this space now give two licks about economic sovereignty or being their own bank. All they want is low risk, high reward. And then when something goes wrong, they always want to blame someone else for their loss or their mess up. This is that case to me. This is the thing that helps also walk the industry and the companies that are coming up now into more regulatory pins. Because why? It's a class action lawsuit. I think that we're going to see more class action lawsuits against platforms such as Uniswap, even when the NFT market hits, as far as those lawsuits, again, this is the stuff that works us towards that centralization of, we were talking about inclusionary stuff in the beginning, but then the regulators come in and be like, nah, we just gonna do a hard slap down on everyone. And then for the folks who was cool with like having economic sovereignty and doing their own due diligence, it don't matter. Regulatory policy says this, if you're trying to mess with a centralized company, this is how it's gonna operate, like how a traditional bank operates, like how a traditional hedge fund operates. Even though the technology is open and anyone can tap in on it, that's not how the regulatory part of the space is working. Again, if you want to be on the outside of the walled garden, it's going to take a little bit more. It's a different mentality. It's a different way of operation. This also goes into the thing that Simon Dixon was saying about the financial innovation cycle. These are the things that make more regulations start coming into the space. So you have it happening at the retail side, and then you also have it happening at like the fund manager, family trust level side of they having their conversations with regulators and the guiding agencies, and so are the people down here on the retail side. And then it just brings more and more regulation. Jumping into this other one. And so like the links for this will be in the description stuff, so y'all can definitely check this out and look at it more. I'm gonna leave it on this last one here. Situation in Mexico. So non-crypto related. If you been listening to anything I say, used to be a truck driver, so I kind of have a thing for this stuff right here as how logistics work and how there's damn near nothing that does not touch a truck in this logistics operation for us here in NAFTA, which is Mexico, United States, and Canada. And so the governor of Texas decided to follow the letter of the law and implement this at a particular border crossing. There's a lot of invested interest going on here. It's the governor's interest, it's the cartel's interest, it's the Mexican business owners' interest who own the tractor trailers, it's the drivers, and it's the Mexican government. I would argue in reading this story, and this is just me because I come from being a truck driver at one point in life, someone didn't do something they were supposed to do, like they didn't pay up something. And so guess what happened? The American governor was like, all right, bump that. Start following the letter of the law as how this whole inspection stuff works. This is some back in the day mob tactics, like dead ass, right? You can definitely go into that and look through it a little bit more. I'm not 100% certain on what was the motivating or how it really worked to open up the crossing again, but I don't think the way that it's being explained here gives enough of the caveat details in regards to what the cartel did, how the truck drivers or what they were really arguing for, kind of like how that Canada situation happened, but anywho, and then how it opened back up. I'm just saying, that's just me and how I look at stuff. Nonetheless, I'm gonna close it out with, if I said something you agree with, great. If I gave you some kind of insight, great. If I said something wrong or way out my, talking out the side of my neck, hey, you could give a thumbs down. I'm okay with that. If you got something you want to add in, the comments are open. We would really appreciate here on CBTV. If you like it, you share it. Or if you just share it, that would be even better. You know how this whole algo game work, right? Last thing to say is I am Shrek with 2Ks, and this is my 2 Satoshis, and that's what I got for y'all. All right, y'all? 1.